Steelers at the Chargers. The Chargers are -5.5, although this line may have moved down a little bit more. Is it getting closer to 4.5 or 5? I could be wrong there. Over under 47. And I think we have our first parlay action here because the Steelers are getting extra points since they're not at home, Pete.
But they are at home.
But anyone who recalls the last game will remember that they played friggin' Renegade in the stadium as the terrible towels were rocking that little soccer stadium. So tell me why we should back the freaking Chargers here.
It is a home game for the Steelers. There will be more Steelers fans in that place than there will be Chargers fans, and it's going to feel like a Steelers home game. I think that their defense will limit Justin Herbert, and part of the reason they will limit Justin Herbert is because Joe Lombardi and Brendan Staley limit Justin Herbert. He's not the same quarterback. Their offense doesn't fit what he does. You have these receivers outside. He doesn't drive the ball down the field. That's perfect to play against the Steelers. Steelers love that. Go ahead, play it that way. And I think they're going to be able to run. Look at the yards per attempt rushing that the Chargers give up. It's not quite 5 right now. It went down a little bit, but 4.9, close to 5. I think the Steelers are going to run, and control the clock, no matter who played quarterback. And I think they not only cover this number, I think they win the game outright.
Yeah, this line started at 4, and when it became clear that Big Ben wasn't necessarily guaranteed to come back, it moved up. And I think that's what happened with Rodgers last week. You know, we weren't sure he was for sure coming back, and then the line moved up. But I think Ben's probably back in this game. It'll be tough to cover, I think, with Big Ben's out. But either way, Pittsburgh's game plan will be just to run Najee because Pete's right. Chargers rush D, 32nd in yards per rush, 32nd in rush attempts. People know what their weakness is, and they attack it. And that lines up with what Pittsburgh wants to do. So I think the movement is because of that Ben news and what's happening there on Pittsburgh. Would I have Pittsburgh as a best bet too? Because the Chargers placed Bosa and Tillery on the COVID-19 list. So it's like, that's a big, it makes things a lot easier for the Pittsburgh if you don't have to deal with Joey Bosa. The Chargers offense struggled against mediocre Minnesota defense last week, even with Minnesota's defensive line injuries. They lost their top defensive pass rusher. And so if TJ Watt misses this game, I don't know that necessarily that Pittsburgh sunk, and he might not even miss time. That injury might be not as bad as it seemed initially. So you're right. This will be a home game for Pittsburgh. There's no way they should be laying 5.5. I think the money line is a great play because you're getting value there, but I love getting the points as a best bet. So Pittsburgh plus 5.5 is one of my best bets too.
Yep. I got the Steelers as well. Chargers suck against the run, as RJ pointed out, 32nd in DVOA. And you lose Tillery and Joey Bosa more than likely. Although I think Bosa is eligible to play, even though he's not vaccinated. Did I read that right?
He's got to pass the test, I think. He's a close contact.
Oh, right. He didn't test positive. He's a close contact, non-vaccination. So he's got to pass negative test. He could still play. I think Tillery is actually out, right? Because he's positive test. Am I wrong? I mean, anyway, at any rate, I don't care if they're both in. I still like the Steelers. This, again, home game for Pittsburgh. It will be tons of Steelers fans there. This is just a bad matchup for the Chargers. They are terrible against the run. The Steelers want nothing more than to feed Najee Harris. Big Ben's playing pretty well the last few weeks, and I like the Steelers to win this game outright.
Are you on a best bet with them too?
Yep.
Oh God.
Let's put in the parlay.
He's hot.
You should be mad that I should be mad that you're on your stinky rotten apple ass is on my picks because I went
4-2. I went 4-2 last week.
It's not 4-1.
Oh my God!
Check the numbers, son.
RJ, are you happy he's with us on the Steelers pick?
He's hot now. We got to ride it while he's hot.
Yeah,
sure.
I run hot and I run cold. I run real hot and real cold.
You were hot last week. You're going cold this week, which means our pick.
I mean, I just assume since we didn't see him on the rundown that Debo sent, I just assume he made that pick after he saw our picks. So
I actually had him down on is it the notepad
app? You know what, RJ? That's a good point. You would think that, as the host of this podcast, that when everybody's stuff is on the rundown, you would think that the host would have his picks in there. He hasn't had them in there since we've been doing this.
Okay, one, that's not true. But ironically, I will say, and Debo, you can back me up here, I did a ton of prep work for this specific podcast, and just the one thing I didn't do was send in my best bets.
Pete, over under 1:02 p.m. Eastern time today that Brinson sent his best bets.
I'll take 103.
104.
So do I win?
104.
I swear to God, I had them on my notepad.
It's amazing.
And I didn't know which balls were because I built up my rundown last night. I spent all day doing some stuff for work and doing some stuff around the house, raking some leaves, vacuuming the living room. I pressed the button on the room, but I let him vacuum, but you get the point. Colts at